Welcome back, guys. This is going to be my top 5 favorite albums of the year 1967. Okay, this was extremely difficult. There were just so many thoughts going through my head because in 1967 it was probably one of the greatest years for music ever. I even thought about cheating and doing a top 10 because there's just so many good albums put out this year. But I decided not to do that, to force myself to choose 5 and stick with the original premise of this series. So that's what I'm going to do. Now, some of you may disagree with my choices, and that's fine. I'm not here to judge albums, one being better than the other, so forth and so on. As a matter of fact, there are some of the albums on here that maybe I consider not to be better than some of the ones that didn't make the list, but just the ones that I listen to the most or that I go back to the most. So, in saying that, I want to give some honorable mentions to a few of the albums that did not make the top 5. So this may be a little shocking to you, but After Bathing at Baxter's by the Jefferson Airplane. This was their 3rd album, very psychedelic album. Very tough not to put in the top 5, but kind of didn't make it. Magical Mystery Tour. If any album was going in the top 5 between the two, it probably would have been Sgt. Pepper. However, Magical Mystery Tour is a companion piece to Sgt. Pepper as far as I'm concerned, but it didn't make it. Easter Everywhere by the 13th Floor Elevators, my favorite 13th Floor Elevators album. Piper at the Gates of Dawn by Pink Floyd. I know. Pink Floyd's my favorite band of all time. And this is their debut album. This is their pioneering album. And I love it. I enjoy the album. I just don't listen to it as much as I do the other Pink Floyd albums from the 70s mostly. So even though it is a pioneering album, I do love the album and it's a great album. It just didn't make the cut. And Are You Experienced by Jimi Hendrix, probably the greatest psychedelic guitarist of all time. Again, it was extremely tough, but I chose the albums that I honestly go back and listen to more than any of the others, and that's just the truth. Again, here's another little bit of controversy. I'm starting out on number 5, and it's a tie. Sorry, guys, I couldn't help it. It's a tie between probably the most well-known and greatest psychedelic album of all time, Sgt. Pepper by the Beatles. This album is, many people consider it to be the greatest album of all time. I do not. I do consider it to be one of the greatest psychedelic albums of all time, and probably the most psychedelic album of all time. It has some wonderful songs on the album. Lovely Rita, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. And, just on those tracks alone, it would probably make the top 5. But the thing that really pushed it over was A Day in the Life. Absolute masterpiece. This song, as a matter of fact, let me reverse that. If A Day in the Life was the only song on the album, it would make the top 5. That's how much I enjoy that song. So coming in at a tie for number 5, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, The Beatles. And here is the album it tied. Not saying that they are comparable, because I consider Sgt. Pepper to be a better album, but I do listen to this album a lot. So it's tied with Younger Than Yesterday by the Byrds. It's my favorite Byrds album. It's the psychedelic folk rock, mostly. They had started out doing some folk stuff, and they do have some psychedelic albums, but this is one of my favorites. It is my favorite psychedelic folk rock album by the Byrds. David Crosby, his songs, Everybody's Been Burned. Excuse me. There's just so many good songs in it. Renaissance Fair, Thoughts and Words, Mind Garden. I mean, there's just so many good songs on this album, and I listen to it. I can sit down and listen to this album. I can listen to it outside, having a cookout. I can listen to it in the background while I'm, straightening up my house. I mean, it's just a good album, and I listen to it a lot. So that's why it made the list as well. So tied with Sgt. Pepper at number 5, Younger Than Yesterday by the Byrds. Number 4. This band was from San Francisco. This is an extremely psychedelic album, and it's probably second only in psychedelia to Sgt. Pepper, maybe. But this is the Sgt. Pepper album of the United States, as far as I'm concerned. This is the psychedelic, lysergic San Francisco sound of Country Joe and the Fish. And the album is called Electric Music for the Mind and Body, Country Joe and the Fish. I just don't know what to say about that. Trippy, hallucinogenic. This is just like going on an acid trip. It's a soundtrack to it. Section 34 instrumental. Just unbelievable song. Sweet Lorraine, of course, is more of their pop psychedelia song. But then you get into stuff like Bass Strings, which really is trippy, and Grace, which I think was written for Grace Slick of the Jefferson Airplane. Very hallucinatory, very strange, bizarre music. Porpoise Mouth is another one that's just out there. But it's just really good music. I love the way Joe McDonald sings. I love the way that he's put the songs together. Barry Melton, his guitar. Country Joe and the Fish was really a very underrated band. They're mostly known for the "Give Me an F," at Woodstock, but this album is the album that I listen to the most. It's the psychedelic masterpiece. Electric Music for the Mind and Body, Country Joe and the Fish. Coming in at number 3. Okay, this one. This one was really tough. But it is the debut album of The Doors. The Doors by The Doors. This is a pioneering masterpiece of 60s pop rock. It's poetic, it's progressive, psychedelic, dark, mysterious, intense, emotional, and it's also makes you feel good. There's songs in here that uplifts and makes you feel good as well too. Inspirational, almost like Break On Through the Other Side. The opening track is just a good rock song that just, but then you've got classic rock gems, Light My Fire, again, Break On Through. You have Crystal Ship, and then you have some of the deeper cuts. End of the Night. I really enjoy that song. If you ever listen to that one, just a solid, packed album. I don't skip any song on this album. It's a gold standard masterpiece of an album. Debut album, one of the best debut albums ever released by any band. And it ends with the epic track, The End. The poetic, sort of avant-garde piece of Jim Morrison. This is the end. I mean, just such a haunting song. Such an epic, just haunting, trippy. I mean, what a way to end the album, and what a great name for the song as well. Very apocalyptic. As a matter of fact, it was in the movie Apocalypse Now, so that tells you a little bit about that. So The Doors by The Doors. Coming in at number 2 is one of my favorite psychedelic albums of all time, Surrealistic Pillow by the Jefferson Airplane. Groundbreaking. Grace Slick came into the band from the Great Society and just brought a couple of songs with her, changed everything. They exploded. White Rabbit, Somebody to Love, or the song she brought over, and they both became hits. It's got two of the most beautiful love ballads by Marty Ballin, coming back to me and Today. Wow, beautiful songs. He has such an emotive voice. I just really love to hear Marty sing. And when the Jefferson Airplane sing together, they don't have like this quartet harmony or barbershop harmony or Beatles or Beach Boys harmony. They have their own style. It's like they sing their own little thing, and it just kind of blends together. It's very strange, but it works. It's beautiful harmonies, textures. Then you have like Embryonic Journey, which is like a little folksy instrumental. You got some heavier sounding stuff on here. You got like I said, the gentle ballads, but it's mostly just blazing pop rock. I mean, like She Has Funny Cars. I mean, it's such a great song. Very progressive too, because there's a lot of changes in not necessarily genre, but the way that they play and the way that they feel. I mean, just compare something like Plastic Fantastic Lover to My Best Friend, or yeah, I mean, it's really cool. Blazing fury of pop psychedelia, I suppose. And they got that really good 60s production that I like. So San Francisco's Jefferson Airplane, Surrealistic Pillow. So my number one favorite album, 1967. This probably is not going to be at the top of most people's lists, but to me it's my favorite album by this band, Strange Days by The Doors. It is the most psychedelic album by The Doors. It's my favorite album by The Doors. It is very progressive. It's not as well known, maybe, and it's not as well loved as the debut album. But it's almost like it's like how Magical Mystery Tour is to Sgt. Pepper. Strange Days to me is a companion piece to The Doors. I mean, if they release those two albums together, maybe I was going to say they wouldn't have to release anything else, but then I was thinking of Riders on the Storm, and but wow, yeah, what a great album. I just love this album. Strange Days, Lost Little Girl is such a haunting little gem of a song. Simple song, but just so raw and emotional. It does have Love Me Two Times. Not really my favorite song, but it's a great pop song. Horse Latitudes is just Jim Morrison. Just this. If you've heard Soft Parade, it's sort of similar to the beginning. It's just a very sick psychedelia type of, the way he does it. It's just the way he sings and what he's singing about. I mean, I wouldn't want to be tripping when I was listening to that. That's just way out there. But one of my favorite songs, or probably my favorite song off the album, I Can't See Your Face in My Mind. I don't know why I like that song so much, but it's just one of the underrated little songs that nobody much listens. They don't ever play it on the radio, but I just love the intro. Dun, 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 dun. And just the lyrics are just so spacey, and it's just a great psychedelic song as far as I'm concerned. And then that leaves When the Music's Over, which is a companion piece to the end to me. They ended the second album on another long, epic song. Okay, so this one doesn't really compare to the end as far as like the popularity of it and maybe the psychedelic originality, but When the Music's Over is just a blistering, blazing, kick butt song, and I mean, I just love it. It's just psychedelic rock. It's Jim Morrison letting it all hang out. It's just the Doors going solid. This is full force Doors rock. When the Music's Over, just such a fantastic track. I even like it more than the end, to be honest with you. I know that blows people's minds, but it's true. So my number one album, 1967, Strange Days by The Doors. Let's hear your albums for 1967. Whether you agree, disagree, whatever. Let's hear your opinion. And if you like this video, share it. Give me a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll be back with more at a later date. Thank you guys and have a wonderful day. Take care.